In 1992, a vacuum cleaner company accidentally promised free flights to America to anyone who bought their products.
We'll give you 2 return flights each to either Rome, Vienna, Sierra Nevada, the Canary Islands, Munich, or the Costa del Sol. Unbelievable.
And it turned into one of the worst business decisions in British corporate history. Hoover wasn't some small startup by the early 90s. It was one of the most recognized appliance brands in the UK, practically a household word. In Britain, people didn't even say vacuuming, they said hoovering. That's how dominant the brand was. But by 1992, Hoover had a problem. Warehouses full of unsold vacuum cleaners and washing machines were piling up, and the company needed a way to move that stock fast. Their marketing team came up with an idea that seemed clever at the time: a travel promotion. The deal was simple on the surface. Spend at least £100 on select Hoover products, and you'd get 2 free round-trip flights to select destinations in Europe. Hoover knew that flights were worth more than the appliances people were buying, so to keep the numbers manageable, they built in a plan. First, sales staff would try to upsell customers into buying pricier products. Second, they made the process of actually claiming the flights long and complicated. Customers had to mail in a receipt and application within 14 days, wait for a registration form, mail that back within another 14 days, then wait for a travel voucher, choose a departure date and destination, all of which Hoover could reject and send back for another round. The bet was that most people would give up somewhere in that process, and for a while, it worked. Vacuums were selling, and only around 10% of buyers actually followed through and claimed their flights. Then Hoover made the decision that would define this entire disaster. They expanded the offer to include free round-trip flights from the UK all the way to the United States. That's when the math completely fell apart. Hoover's most popular qualifying product, a model called the Turbo Power Total System, sold for about £120 and earned the company roughly £30 in profit per unit. But a pair of round-trip transatlantic flights cost Hoover around £600. That means for every single customer who successfully claimed their flights, Hoover lost about £570. Word of the deal spread fast, arguably one of the most effective marketing promotions in company history, just for entirely the wrong reasons. Sales surged to more than 10 times what Hoover had projected. Factories had to nearly double their staff just to keep up with demand. On paper, Hoover looked like it was booming. In reality, it was hemorrhaging money with every sale. Roughly 300,000 people ended up purchasing a qualifying product specifically to get the flights. If Hoover had honored every single claim, the company would have owed approximately £171 million, money it simply didn't have. So Hoover tried to slow the bleeding. They rejected applications over minor paperwork errors. They assigned customers to departure airports hundreds of miles from their homes, hoping people would give up rather than travel that far just to start their trip. They even timed the mailing of request forms to arrive right around Christmas, banking on holiday distractions and postal delays to cause people to miss the response deadlines. Customers weren't willing to let it go quietly. An organized group called the Hoover Holiday Pressure Group formed to fight back, and eventually the dispute ended up in court. Hoover was legally ordered to honor its promise. In the end, the company paid out roughly £72 million in flights to about 220,000 customers, still less than half of what it technically owed everyone who qualified, but enough to badly damage its finances. The reputational damage was just as severe.
How can a company like Hoover treat us like that?
If I realised this was the outcome, I would never have bought the product in the first instance.
Well, I'm tempted to say that Hoover sucks. I wouldn't want to give them the publicity.
The British royal family, which had granted Hoover an official royal warrant, a mark of endorsement given to select British companies, revoked that recognition entirely. And there was a longer-term problem too. Hundreds of thousands of people had bought vacuums and washing machines they didn't actually need, purely to qualify for flights. Many of those appliances ended up resold second-hand or given away as gifts, flooding the market and making it even harder for Hoover to sell new units for years afterward. Several executives lost their jobs over the fallout. The financial damage was so severe that Hoover's entire European appliance division was eventually sold off to an Italian company. All because one promotion, meant to clear out a warehouse, ended up costing the company far more than the products it was trying to sell in the first place.